Target destroyed. Target hit. Target destroyed.
This mode is called Censor, and it's basically what the server sees as everything happens.
Target destroyed.
So not only do you have my perspective, but also you have every single active unit on the field that was within sensible range. So all of my allies are immediately highlighted, and anything they can see also highlighted. This is an example of just paying attention to the battlefield. Obviously, the capture point moved is here where my allies are, and I'm on the other one. The point I'm making is simply that my allies aren't really paying that much attention. Now, we lost this battle. We lost this. I want to show the top-down perspective of this fight.
We've been hit.
Simply because this can tell you a lot about how my allies are fighting by comparison. You watch, a lot of them are swarmed up over here on this corner, and they're just firing ungodly amounts of tracer at the enemy. But they're not really hitting them. While the enemy is using their fortified positions to their advantage. And their flight. My allies aren't really thinking. And the pile of corpses ought to give you a better perspective. Remember, these were friendly. And this is sort of a mix between them. Over where I'm at in yellow, those are all enemy tanks. There were no friendlies over there. You'll notice they all cluster up together. They're not really thinking. Or at least it doesn't look that way. There's an LVT over here who tried, but he should have came in through over here instead. Meanwhile, these guys just stacking up on that corner instead of doing anything else.
Target destroyed.
When I started this match, my only goal was to kill 6 tanks. As it says in chat, down there in the bottom left. I only wanted to kill 6. And with this last one, that was kill number 6. Everything after this is purely by chance. As you can see in the top, where the score bar is up here, I do take Charlie back. I don't let him keep that. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't matter. Why? Because my teammates really didn't do much. This corner, right here, this corner at a spawn point, is why we lost. Because they all stacked up here instead of trying to go around. There are some people over here at the very end that tried, but it wasn't enough because they were already all over everything. Unfortunately, I wouldn't end up making it back to Bravo Point. I was going to head that way, but I never ended up making it there. And you'll see why. In short, the reason why is because I ended up getting a little
Hit. Target destroyed.
See that locust over there? He's really trying to get me, but he doesn't understand what's going on.
Target destroyed.
I happened to catch a whiff of something going on over on my right, which is why I turned to go back, and I believe it was that Panzer II right here. I believe I heard him, which is what caused me to go back the other way. I didn't know the Panzer IIIB was back there.
Target destroyed.
That would be the reason that I died.
Target hit.
I got greedy right there.
We've been hit.
By then, the rest of the battle was over. So, nothing else I could do from there. My point is, stop this, pause it as is. Come over here. Just this pile of corpses. And over half of these have despawned long ago by now. But they just sat here on this corner, trying to fire in at brick walls, while they themselves had no cover. They didn't think. They just acted like a bunch of lemmings. Much like the pile of corpses over here on Alpha, or A Factory as it's more commonly known. You can tell who is on which side based on where the corpses are and the locations of their turrets. This guy was an enemy. This guy was an ally. Enemy. However, you might think otherwise because the front of the chassis is that way. In reality, I'm looking at this. That M2 was an ally. These two were not. And I can tell they weren't using this as cover. They weren't using this as a target. That locust over there was an enemy. We move over here to the actual capture point. This is where you can see a bigger picture for everything. This BT-7, he was friend. Boat was enemy. These two were allies. I want to say this was also an ally, but it's hard to say for sure. I believe that one was an ally. Everything out here, though, everything out here was an enemy. And then this big cluster. And most of them despawned, but these were all friendly. That big bomb dropped somewhere in here and took out at least half of them. Yeah, if I turn off just the enemy corpses. Really? Okay, well this makes it so much worse. That guy was a friend. Yes, these guys were enemies. Allies continue to have the tags over their... You were a friend. I was not expecting that. Anyway. This entire corner down here, all allies, all dead. Guys came in, flanked around over here. But as I said before, not a single corpse over here. Not a singular corpse is friendly. They're all enemy. The only friendly corpse on this half of the entire map is my own. Because I'm the only one who was on the left side of the map. So all 11 dead tanks over here was all by me. These are all of the enemy. There's sort of a mix in here with them. Not quite an even split, but it's fairly close. However, it looks a lot more uniform when you look at this perspective of it. You split the map in half, there's about an even number here as there is over there. But again, the allied deaths don't match that. And all of the living tank from both sides. Again, it's a more or less even split on the enemy team. They fanned out. It's hard to say when a team is good enough to operate together compared to when they're not. However, I think this one serves as a good example as a team that simply did not work together. I'm not going to try and pat myself on the back too hard, but I do feel like I did a good job defending and eventually taking. I got greedy, which is why I died. I may have killed... Panzer should be back here somewhere. His corpse may have despawned. Yes. So I may have killed that Panzer. And I may have tried to kill this one. And it was my own greed that eventually led to my downfall. Both in not paying attention, and in simply just not doing a good enough job. However, that does not excuse the rest of my team. Even knowing that I should have been helping them, and I really wasn't, there is no excuse for what they did. Only thing I can say is that most of these players are new players. They're new players, they haven't been here that long. A lot of them are running on controller at that, which the controllers for War Thunder, but if you don't know how they work, they really suck. You get the hang of them, they work great. My point being, I had an inexperienced team. They didn't really know the map. I don't think a lot of them really knew how to shoot. Fortunately, this doesn't really tell me. I don't really have the info pull up here on how well they did. Not well in the replay. Unless... Okay. So I can do this though. I can go through them individually. That one's mine. This guy was able to get 3. This guy was able to get 5. This guy got 2. 1. 3. 1. 1 and a plane. Got 2 assists but no kills. 3 assists, no. 1 assist, no kills. 1. 2 no kills. 1 assist, 1 kill. This guy did nothing. This guy did work. Enemy have 3. 11. So this guy did just as well as I did. Did he? No, he didn't quite do as well. I had 2 captures on top of that. I didn't have any assists, though, because I was the only one. This guy is pretty much my rival in the other team. 2, 2, 3 in an aircraft. No kills, but he got his own. 1's across the board, except he died twice. Got 3. Got 3. 2 in a plane. This is a guy who I just absolutely dumped. He got 2. 3. Got 2. I said 12,000 for. This guy got 1, and okay, simple. And then even knowing the stats, I mean, doesn't change much. They're both fairly inexperienced teams with a couple people that knew what they were doing. The difference is they fanned out into squadron and tried to either go around or confuse. And it works. I don't know what else to say about it. It works. Important information, and if you want to play War Thunder and you want to do good, just try and use this battle as an example. Look at the bigger picture. Hope it helps, if nothing else.